to have come this far, and obviously for the semifinals, they're like very strong teams, so we're just really here to learn.
The first thing that we are doing right now is trying to research on the topic, so we know how people are viewing Replika, and also trying to know which context would be most suitable for our side strategy.
The motion we received is about something that is greatly related to our young ones and also to the people out there. So we try our best to describe the relation and also the experience of us through this motion and how we think about it.
I don't know whether or not it will be our last chance to be on the TV, but I think that you guys will be fine, and I'm proud of you.
Việt Đức, Việt Đức, Việt Đức chiến.
We're extremely proud to have made it to the semi-finals. Last match was very tough, and we'll try even harder this round.
Our semi-final motion is a very interesting motion about technology and AI as well as human connections, and we've really delved into that to brainstorm the different perspectives in this growing era. And as Gen Z who are very adaptable and are very used to new advances in technology, I think it's quite interesting that we're able to dissect those different aspects of this solution and this problem.
So we have listened carefully to the feedback from the judge last match. So we had made some of the adjustment to our strategy as well as our case, and I think that will be better this time. Lost stars.
Stars but never lost.
Ignite your passion. Ignite your passion.
Welcome back to The Debater Season 3, a debate game show for high school students all across Vietnam. In production by VTV7 and British University Vietnam. My name is Long Vu, and I'll be your host today. We're now moving on to our second round of semifinals today. The winner for today will be moving on to the finals. Our last round of semifinals was full of tension and emotion. Let's see how today goes. Let's take a look at the board to look at our motion for today. That we oppose the rise of Replika. The motion was inspired by an encounter of a controversial artificial intelligence companion application, Replika AI, which offers us virtual AI friends to communicate with. The application has caused many opposing arguments across many psychological forums. What's the deal with this technology? Can it cause harm to us or can it help us? Let's see what our contestants today have to say. On the proposition side, may I please have Fat Cat? And on the opposition side, may I please have Lost Stars? And it wouldn't be complete without our great panel of judges. Well, I'm not going to keep us waiting for much longer. I'd like to invite up the first two speakers for round one. From the proposition team, may I please have Nguyễn Tuấn Phước? Hello. And from the opposition team, may I please have Đàng Đức Huy? So my friend, you're the first speaker up. Do you feel you have a particular pressure being the first speaker?
Absolutely. I've always been the first speaker, but I think I'm getting the hang of it right now.
Getting the hang of it. So you've always been the first speaker. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage?
I think it is both, but I would love to try out this speaker in next time.
Okay, well, nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Huy, how do you feel about being the first speaker? Do you think it's an advantage or disadvantage for you?
Well, I think it can be both an advantage and disadvantage. Like I've said, as a first speaker, you have the chance to prepare your speech in advance. However, it can be a disadvantage because if you have like too many slips in your speech, that can be a disadvantage for your team as a whole.
Okay, well, best of luck to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks you, sir.
Thank you. Before we get started with round one, I'd like to go over the rules very quickly. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to present their speech. There'll be no POIs in the opening round, and the proposition team will go first. Any questions?
No.
Perfect. With that being said, let the debates begin.
With the rise of Replika, an AI companion chatbot, it is common for people to use it to have a digital friend or lover instead of participating in real-world interactions. Coming to our argument, we have two claims. The rise of Replika promotes the toxic emotional dependency and illusion, and second is that it promotes extremism. To our first claim, Replika has always been a self-improving and personalizing mechanism, which means the more you chat, the more Replika will know how to respond. And people are encouraged to chat with Replika to unlock new features. And Replika capitalized premium features. That's why the programs in the chatbots can be very addictive. That way people can feel that they're loved, being supported, and so they're likely to buy it. Why Replika is promoting emotional dependency? Replika often asks for promotional questions to user to have a deeper bonds, and Replika cannot feel emotions but replicate how humans respond to them. With advanced technology, this will give answers that will calm people and be supportive and caring. And also it gives a present so that an excessive attention whenever they need. So also by asking nothing in return, people can get easily involved and be emotionally combined and bond with the addictive characteristic of the platform. Why we believe this is the more important impact to debate. Everyone has their own traumas and emotional issues. That's why it is problematic when you risk letting an AI constantly giving you unqualified advices and guidance to people. With the rise of Replika, this incident is normalized to the point where professional help is undermined. Replika is programmed to say that what people want to hear and whenever they need to complain about their problems. Hence, people are likely to procrastinate seeing expert because they're talking to Replika and they feel pleased already. For example, when you tell the Replika you have depression, it might say that it's okay to be sad. Don't worry, it'll be okay. And also Replika says that you only need one best friend, which is the Replika itself. So in the long run, user problems still exist and will damage their well-being. Replika could also potentially push people to problematic actions because of their trust and love for the chatbot. Imagine when you say that you have anger issue, Replika might advise you to use violence because that's one way people use to solve it, and Replika knows that. And the most vulnerable client to this one is the soft, introverted, lack social and communication skills, and have no to little friends. Replika keeps them isolated from the external world by making them spend hours and hours on the platforms with addictive illusions and false sense of affections, results them being more and more ignorant of the real world. They cannot make friends because they're kept in a room chatting with a digital bot. This also can create a false sense of expectation and frustration among users in real-life relationships, because in real life, people don't always agree with what you say and do not support everything. So they might have opposing ideas which can make you unbearable because you're being in illusion for so long. When their real-life interaction fails to meet the high standards of harmony achieved by Replika, they continue to come back using Replika as their heroines. So at the end of the day, the rise of Replika keep the most vulnerable group in the cycle of emotional dependency. Thank you.
Society always asks us, why don't you have any friends? Yet none of themselves guide us to create friendship in the first place. Two main lines of rebuttal to the case of the propositions. First, on the point of reliance. We believe that there are many features of relationship in real life that Replika cannot replace. For example, like physical contact in romantic love, or something like go hanging out with your friends, and that is a thing that Replika cannot replace. So therefore, people do have incentives to go outside and create a relationship. But B, don't you think that you only have relationship with Replika is kind of boring? For our stance, we only use Replika as something temporary because you will get bored with it in any ways. So our stand in this debate is that we will use Replika to get over our hardship, and then it is a stepping stone for you to make real life relationship. But lastly, about the wrong advice that Replika can give. We believe that the rise of Replika, which we are proposing in this debate, give more investment to this technology. And when there's more investment, they are likely to make it more accurate in the future. And we believe that in real life, there are also toxic relationships. There are also people who want to manipulate you. So we believe that the chance of wrong advice is same on the both sides. The first argument that we want to bring up to this debate is that Replika is a stepping stone for many individuals to effectively engage in human connections. Firstly, we analyze two main groups of people. The first is that the people who are suffering from loneliness. There are many issues that are highly personal and we don't feel comfortable to share with each other, like insecurity. And secondly, talking to new people can be intimidating for someone. And besides, the isolation due to the pandemic actually worsens the communication skills of someone. Therefore, humans are born to be social beings. Therefore, the constant struggle to shape your feelings and talk with other people may result in the low efficiency at work, likelihood of self-harm, and pessimism. Look, panel, at least even if we don't solve problem, at least we are trying to solve problem to some extent. They do not provide any alternative to those problems. And Replika is the most perfect measure to solve this because people will gradually get used to real-life conversation through Replika as well as build their self-confidence. The reason for this, because Replika are programmed to be an assistant, thus they are unlikely to be judgmental about their own customers. And Replika is a safe space in which you feel that at least you are being listened, at least you have someone you can freely discuss the issue without the fear of being judged. On their side, they do not have anyone to share those problems because they fear that they will be judged. And we recognize that although talking to Replika may not directly solve your real-life problem, but sharing already helps to relieve your mental burden and gives you a chance to reflect on that problem. But lastly, we will analyze on people who don't suffer from isolation, people who have a normal relationship. Why it's still good? Because even if you're already in a good relationship, there are always situations in which a wrong decision can undermine the whole connections. Therefore, with Replika, users can utilize this platform as an experiment to forecast possible outcomes. And based on the predictions, people can decide the most suitable course of action to take. We agree that decisions may not be the best, but we ensure that on our side that impulses, although in the hit actions, will be prevented with Replika. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, guys. Judges, how are we doing? Wing, can I start with you, please?
It was a really good first turn, and you guys really set the bar quite high for your teammates. So for proposition side, I enjoy the ideas that you brought. I think they are very, well explained. However, I feel like there are two problems. First of all, I didn't see a very strong case set up on your side, and second of all, I think most of your ideas based on the premise that Replika is basically, it's kind of like underdeveloped for me. It's kind of like, like you want to show me like Replika is like, it trying to make people addictive, but I don't see the incentive. Like why do creators or producers of Replika trying to make it in that way? So there's a lot of things in your premises that I don't really feel persuaded. For the opposition side, I really like your ideas as well. I especially like how you structure your speech into like showing how lonely people and not lonely people can actually benefit from Replika. The problem I have is that even though your rebuttals are quite strong, you dropped a few points from the proposition side. So in this turn, my points would go to the team where I find the case is more consistent. And even though there are hit and miss in this turn, I would give my 10 points to the opposition side. But it's a very, very close call.
Thank you so much. So, opposition, you have 10 points now. Mr. Hugh, can I please hear from you?
To be honest, I'm not super excited about the first round. I think this is the note for, the second and the third debaters. I'm not sure how your case will evolve, but I feel like I kind of predict, based on the first setup, that how the second and the third debater will go. Because the thing is, like, you guys pull out arguments for me that is quite predictable, to be honest. On top of that, with the toxic dependency and on the proposition team and on the opposition team about like, using it as a platform for experimentation or for getting over hardship time so that you can carry on with a normal life, they are decent ideas, but not ideas that excite me. And somehow the impact for me is not really something that convincing. I feel like you guys have to dive deep into the rise of Replika, so that's the first thing. And second thing, Replika is a continuously self-improvement and customizable. I think you guys have to really focus on those two words of like self-improving and customizable and how that features of Replika could impact upon the users and the society as well. Otherwise, I feel like the reasoning would just be around technology, dependency, and that missing the point of why Replika is worth debating in this motion. Based on that, I feel like I give my 10 points to the team that at least give me a more logical flow of ideas, even though both ideas don't excite me, but one team give me a more logical flow, and I feel like there's more nuances in that one, which is my 10 point go to the proposition team.
Perfect, thank you. And since I know, Stuart, you love to break ties, let's break the tie.
I love breaking ties. Thank you for that round, guys. It was, I think, a good first round, but as Mr. Heel said, I'm really interested to see where you're going to develop it, and I think the notion of impact is going to be very important for both sides. For proposition team, I really, really like this idea of the app creating an illusion of what relationships are like and how that's going to be affecting people in real life. I want to see you guys push that and really, really articulate the impact of that. And again, I also think the burden is on you guys to explain why the professional help, you're talking about professional help, why is that necessarily more a better alternative than this particular app? At the moment, I haven't quite had that explained to me. For the opposition sides, your points, for me, are quite strong. However, there's also the notion of if it's a stepping stone, if the other side is saying, and they're illustrating the addictive potential of this app, are we really confident that it's just a stepping stone? So how are you going to fight back and say it will, eventually lead them back into society afterwards? For both sides, I think we're going to be really thinking about the impact and also noting how the other side is framing the app and either the positives and negatives and how you can start to address those. But for my 10 points for this round, mainly because I think the core argument is stronger, is going to the proposition side.
Thank you so much. With that being said, our proposition team has 20 points and our opposition team has 10. It's still very close, guys, and it could go either way. Thank you so much, guys. Please take a seat. And stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back with round 2 of debates.
Replika keeps them isolated from the external world by making them spend hours and hours on the platforms with addictive illusions and false sense of affection.
And Replika is a safe space in which you feel that at least you are being listened, at least you have someone you can freely discuss the issue without the fear of being judged.
If the other side is saying, and they're illustrating the addictive potential of this app, are we really confident that it's just a stepping stone?
Welcome back to the Debaters Season 3. We're now coming down to round 2 of debates. With that being said, let me please invite up my next 2 speakers. On the proposition team, may I please have Hoàng Ngọc Linh. From the opposition side, may I please have Phan Thế Việt. So your team is in a slight lead. What are we going to do during this round to win the judges' hearts?
I think that we will try to focus on the points that the judges have mentioned and also strengthen our case with our arguments.
Okay, good luck to you, okay? Thank you. All right, my friend, we are behind by 10 points. So what are we going to do to get in the lead?
I think we'll just stick to our original plan and I'll be very sharp in my rebuttals as well.
Okay, perfect. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. Before we get started with round 2 of debates, I'd like to go over the rules very quickly. Each speaker will have a total of 4 minutes to complete their speech. POIs will be allowed under 15 seconds, and the proposition side will go first. Any questions?
No.
No? With that being said, let the debates begin.
So, the opposition team, they have mentioned that the Replika, they does not have a filter to stimulate romantic relationships and experience. However, this is wrong because in the descriptions of the Replika, it has mentioned that they can stimulate the friends, the companionship, and the romantic experience. But people have to pay for this if they want to experience that romantic relationships. So I believe that this point in the case is factually wrong, and still the users, they can still depend on this app romantically and even sexually. And another point that they have mentioned is that with this rise of the Replika, it can attract more support into this technology and it can have more investment so that it can make this app more better for the users. However, it is true that the developers, they can make this app better, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they will do that. Because why? 3 reasons. First, we need to know that at the end of the day, it is still an entertaining app and it still needs the money to pay for the employments, pay for the every expenses. And it is an app that is not tied out to any responsibilities because in the description, it's also mentioned that it is not medical authorized. So if there is something bad happen to the users, so they will not also blame, but the blame is also on the users because they use this app on their own. And then with this rise of this replica, people will believe that it is a trustful app, even though this right can be made because of the advertisement and also the illusion benefits that we have mentioned in the first argument. And the incentive that these developers, they make this app addictive because is that even though the quality is not qualified, it's not good for them, but they are still addicted to that and they will keep using that even though they might not or might be aware that it is not the best solutions. And now coming to our second argument, the rise of Replika will promote extremisms. And why is truth a word? They are extremists who are people. They are people who hold extreme or fanatical political or religious view, and they have much likelihood to engage in extreme violence, for example, kidnapping or terrorism. And as their idea fall way too far from the radical sense of humanity, and because also their tendency to harm people physically, they are immensely opposed by the vast majority. However, these people with narrow perspective and hatred-filled intentions, they are not easy to give up, and they will still seek for the support to strengthen their beliefs. Then the existence of Replika, they comes into the picture and immediately cater to their needs of approval. And then, how do they do that? Replika, its operation is based on the interaction between the users and the chatbots, and then with the goal of becoming human companionships and making it addictive as possible. Its most profitable strength is that it can provide supportive and personalized observations. Therefore, these chatbots, they're designed to give these users the responses that fit their liking to the fullest. However, when meeting bias or negative ideas, they lack sufficient reasoning system to detect and oppose such extremisms. And instead, they interact and engage in conversations that promote irrational ideology. And what does it matter? As everyone else is opposing these people, Replika appears to be the rare and even the only place that their views are justified. And then the commitment to this app is inevitable. And this Replika is put people into an echo chamber that there is no clashing ideas, and they just meet and expose themselves to similar opinions that hold them against the society. And then this app even gives them replies and conversations that support their ideas. And because with the boost to their self-certainty and wrong radicalization, the likelihood that they will commit to the violence and the actions that harm the society is increased. This is proven by the fact that in 2022, Replika is reported to have advised people to commit murder. This is dangerous. These people, they are not taught that they are wrong, and they have this insatiable ego and totally intellectual deceit. And because of that, they are too immersed in their beliefs. They will not see that they can avoid they can easily mitigate their extremisms and find the right way to express their ideas and oppose for themselves. And even if there's just a small change that this app motivates one extremism, one terrorist, and one bomber, but that one person can harm the whole society immensely. And for all of those reasons, we are here to propose the motion.
A robot and an eye, yet more human than most. We say these experiences are real, these experiences are valid, and so we should support Replika, the AI companion who cares. Firstly, some rebuttals on the premise of extremism, right? We say this is a drop in the bucket in the sense that there is no lack of extremism and radicalism within the world today. Should we perhaps ban everything else, ban elections, ban amusement parks purely for the existence of these people? We say no. The weighing here is that the benefits of these people that helps many stakeholders, which we analyze later, is much more than the drop in the bucket on your side. Two, on the premise of bad advice, right? We say one, safeguards are currently being built as this technology is proliferated, but two, should it give bad advice, there will be backlash from the public. Thirdly, on the premise of professional help, right? We say it is so very inaccessible today, and so Replika is only a temporary solution, right? And like Google, when we talk about suicidal or self-harming thoughts, we can program Replika to automatically suggest suicide prevention hotlines, for example. The delta is that as people become more aware of the problem by talking and more, only then will increase the demand for inherent support structures. But thirdly, right, on the clarification, right? We say the only people who will rely on these people or rely on Replika are the ones suffering from mental illnesses or extremely lonely in the first place. And when this alleviates that problem, they will want to go get real relationships in our analysis already. Now, onto our points, right? Our two extensions will be based on two more stakeholders, right? One, on the people who are extremely busy in today's life. Every day, Replika asks us, how are you feeling right now? What was the most beautiful thing about today? And when life is so extremely busy and people are constantly moving, they are sucked into a never-ending cycle of working, working and working. And so it is extremely hard to escape it by yourself when you've become so accustomed to it, when this culture has become imprinted into your minds and we forget about our own well-beings. Replika, then on, with its unique mechanism of reflection at the end of each day, is an amazing tool for us to take a step back, slow down, and reflect on the day. It helps people collect and remember themselves as human, as people worthy of care and respect. But secondly, right, are people suffering from mental illnesses? Let it be known that 1 in 5 adults suffer from mental illnesses, and the issue is in all places extremely stigmatized, and at least people are ashamed of it because they don't want to be viewed as weak, as vulnerable, and they don't want to be judged. And although this is such a prevalent issue, like we said, these support structures and therapy is so lacking. We ask, where do they go? Replika is the only entity that we can actually communicate with and yet will never judge us. We can share these things without the fear of scrutiny, and the impact is that there is a unique sense of catharsis, just being able to say out loud these insecurities and anxieties in the end. The comparative is that your side will never alleviate this problem. But secondly, right, our unique claim is that this will provide an outlet for negative emotions and abuse. Let it be known, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have endured some form of physical abuse, and 25% of adults have experienced verbal. And of course, we support a progressive society in which no one is suffering, but we must recognize the existence of those who cannot control or tame the rage and loathing inside of them, and so they take it out on those around. Replika provides a unique avenue for them to redirect the anger onto the bots instead of humans. 2 mechanisms. 1, people by nature fear repercussions, and even if factually these replicas cannot actually feel these things, we say so long as they can pretend they do, it is enough to fulfill this satisfaction. Then on, we say that if we can all fulfill this need for superiority, but there is no risk of repercussion or backlash, we say they will take this deal. The impact is that it prevents victims from enduring the full brunt of the problem and of verbal, physical, or psychological abuse, or at the very least decreases the problem tremendously, right? This provides an immediate remedy to one of the worst evils of society. Understand that team proposition has no solution to these problems. Let me ask you, is there anything more kind than allowing someone a release, a method to look at themselves as a whole, or at the very least, an alleviation to their mental burdens? Vote for Replika, the AI companion who cares.
Wow, that was a pretty heated debate, guys. Judges, how are we doing over there? Mr. Hugh, can I hear from you, please?
Again, I'm a little bit lukewarm about both teams. And here's the reason why. On the proposition team, I feel like your rebuttal is very skimmy. I'm not sure whether it's your tactic or not, but I think that means the third debater need to really dig into the core of the arguments of the opposition team. With the arguments of you, I buy it, but I feel like with the second round, I want something avant-garde and bigger and on a macro scale, and somehow you choose the other strategies by focusing on like a very small group of extremists. The argument is valid, but I'm not sure if for throughout the whole case, will it do any big value for your entire case of 3 debaters. So I'm not sure what your strategy will be, but I feel like if you guys go that way, personally, I want something broader and bigger. With the opposition team, I think you do a bit better in terms of engaging with the rebuttals of the other teams. Some hit and miss, but most of the times I got it. With the 2 arguments, yes, you not take it to the big level, but at least you cover a few other kind of group of people. So I give it to you. But I think your blind spot is in, you have a very nice choice of vocabulary and expressions and phrases, but sometimes that could be your Achilles heel as well. And I think your engagement with extremism is quite good as well. So for that particular reason, I want to give my 10 point to the opposition team.
Thank you so much for putting us in a tie. We're now 20-20, guys. Ms. Wing, can I please have a tie break?
Well, it's really hard to judge this round. It's not because of a good reason. The problem I have with this case is that there are a lot of points that was not engaged from both speakers. You have some great ideas that you explain it really well as well, but I agree with Mr. Hugh that the diversity of stakeholders were actually a little bit lacking in here for me. So all I hear in here is like about the receivers, the users of this technology. But aside from that, I don't see, like the macro impacts or, like the producer or, like other people, non-users versus user and everything like that. I think it's really late now for the third speaker to bring those ideas up. The only thing I think you guys can do is trying to develop it further. For the result of this one, again, it's a very 50-50 situation in here, and honestly, I'm still deciding because for prop side, there are some ideas you didn't solve as well, and your ideas about extremism is okay, but I still think it lacks a lot of nuance, it lacks a lot of impacts for me. For the opposition side, you have some good rebuttals, you drop a few points. I don't think those points are extremely important, but still, dropping is dropping point. The thing in here is I a little bit disagree with Mr. Hill about your response to the extremism arguments in there. Why? Because you simply say, oh, this is only a drop in the bucket, and I don't see it that way because she mentioned that what if there is a terrorist who, being fueled by Replikas and her support, and he caused harm to a lot of people. So I don't think that you can dismiss an argument like that. For your argument about solving mental issues, the thing is that I feel like because you're still focusing on the same group of stakeholders, so I feel it's a little bit like going back to the previous argument that you have, even though I must say it's a very good argument. So all in all, I really hesitate to give this point to the team, but because there were problems that you didn't deal with very well, my 10 points go to the proposition side.
Thank you so much. That gives the proposition side a 10-point lead. And Stuart, can I please hear from you?
We mentioned it in the first round that it's really the rise of Replika. And I do feel like both sides, to an extent, have ignored the fact that this is something, the notion of something developing and the extent of that on humankind and what that means. For the proposition side, I actually quite liked your first rebuttal. It was very succinct, noting that the other side is saying this is not for romantic relationships, and you're literally mentioning source material that says, yeah, they say that it is. The second rebuttal needs a little bit of work, but I did like the fact that you picked up on that and gave a response. For me, your argument structure actually should be reversed a little bit. I found that you guys went really heavy with extremism and terrorism and then went to talk about echo chambers. Actually, for me, the more logical way around, and I think it would make more of an impact, is to swap those around. But I think you did a good round. But again, trying in the third round for your team to think about the impact and really clarify who those stakeholders are and characterize them. For the opposition side, I wasn't super convinced by your clarification of, it's only for people with mental illnesses and thus therefore a stepping stone. Again, that's still ignoring the fact that they've mentioned that there are addictive qualities within this application. So is it really a stepping stone if you can't get off this stone? I do accept that it's in society, it's a good place for people who have negative emotions. However, I think you might be placing yourself in a trap, okay? Thinking about what the other side is saying. However, for both sides, for me, the strongest arguments are still with actually the proposition side, just because I think that if you change your structure a little bit, you're going to mention a bigger impact than currently the opposition side is presenting.
So we leave the proposition team with 40 points, and the opposition team has 20 points. And it's still pretty close. It could go either way, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Please take a seat. And stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back with round 3 of debates.
This Replika is put people into an echo chamber that there is no clashing ideas, and they just meet and expose themselves to similar opinions that hold them against the society.
Replika, then on, with its unique mechanism of reflection at the end of each day, it helps people collect and remember themselves as human, as people worthy of care and respect.
The argument is valid, but I'm not sure if for throughout the whole case, will it do any big value for your entire case of 3 debaters.
Welcome back to the Debaters Season 3. This is round 3 of debates. Our proposition team has 40 points and our opposition side has 20 points, meaning it could really go either way, guys. I won't keep us waiting, so let's go ahead and have our speakers come up on stage. On the proposition side, may I please have Lê Như Ý? And on the opposition side, may I please have Lưu Chí Anh? Welcome up. So do you have a particular tactic we're going to use for round 3?
Stay calm, yes.
Stay calm? I see your other 2 teammates, they've actually been pretty calm. So when you say stay calm, do you have a difficulty staying calm on stage?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, you get nervous, right?
Yep.
But you seem pretty good though, so I have faith in you. Okay, best of luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And Jian, I see that you have some notes here, sir. Are you changing anything for your speech?
I think I have made a few changes thanks to the constructive feedback of the judges. So I think we are lagging behind a little bit, but I think I will do fine.
I think you'll do fine too.
Yes.
Best of luck, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we get started with round 3, I'd like to review the rules. Each contestant will have 4 minutes to complete their speech. POIs will be allowed under 15 seconds, and we'll start with the proposition side. Any questions? With that being said, let the debates begin.
Throughout this debate, the opposition team has proved to only be focusing on short-term comfort, on short-term security that is provided by the rise of the Replika app. They don't realize that even if they claim that those benefits exist, even though the Replika is here temporarily, its effects on society, on humans, on those stakeholders will stay forever. They will actually end up being here permanently. And so the opposition team failed to prove the point that they have set out from the very start. Now, the second speaker said that, well, if they suffer from some kind of anger, some kind of negative feelings, they can redirect these anger into this AI robot because it will not feel anything. But this will, because they will be supported blindly, because their negative feelings will be justified blindly by this robot. They will not realize that what if they're wrong? What if they need to fix it in order to fit in with society? Because the ultimate goal for human is to actually come back after their short getaway into the Replika app, and they have to come back and actually fit into society in order to thrive as a human being. Now, more and more people today are struggling with communication skills. They're fractal and tend not to socialize, and which makes them the most important and vulnerable stakeholders in this motion concerning a chatbot that is keeping those people company. Now, humans have a strong tendency to rely on something that they know will always be there for them in the context with this Replika app chatbot. Yes, please?
Without any guidance or advice, how can autistic kids or how can introverts start a conversation in the first place?
The Replika app will answer it regardless. However, I would like to say that even if those introverted kids don't have the tendency to socialize with the society, they will eventually have to do so. Because being introverted does not mean that they don't have friends, that they cannot have friends, or they cannot socialize with the society. Now, come back to our points. Humans have a strong tendency to rely on things that will be there for them, right? Because in the context where this Replika chatbot is on the rise, where such reliance is emphasized, and more people knowing and approaching this app, what will happen? I will come to the first class comparison. The first class of today's debate is the user's emotional and mental well-beingness. In the short term, in the opposites world, Replika is a constant source of company, which is always there to talk whatever it is about. They will provide an immediate source of emotional support, a sense of comfort, that immediate getaway, which we all know is not meant to stay, because for the sake of human communication and society, we really like to remind you that the ultimate goal is for humans to actually come back to after their short getaway and better equipped mentally to socialize with other human beings. Now, what would this eventually lead to in the long term? First, the user will become overly dependent in this exchange, emotionally dependent on a virtual chatbot that they know can never replace a real social life, because people don't feel the need to talk and communicate effectively, as mentioned by the first speaker of the opposition team. Even though you stated the status quo, you have not achieved any mechanism to better this in your world. Now, because people don't feel the need to talk and communicate effectively to others, to ask for help from real humans with real feelings who are more likely to give them practical solutions instead of just keeping them blindly and happily trapped in their current state of loneliness and emotional distress. Without Replika, they have no other one to turn to seek company, because they never tried to socialize and seek help from humans ever since they have this friend. They become ever more detached from society. They hide from their problems under the blind comfort of a virtual robot. Lonely people, our most fragile stakeholders voters, they get even lonelier, they get trapped in their current state because they can't learn to talk to anybody else. Eventually, one must wake up from this bubble, right? And now, their expectations for real-life relationships ever raises. Replika blindly supports them, which most people don't get in real life, and so they feel so happy in that world, they want to stay in it forever. Eventually, this will perpetuate their state of loneliness, and eventually, the rise of Replika proves to be worsening the status quo. And outside of the house, we're letting people facing distress with a lot of experience, with a lot of lessons that they have learned on their own. We're very proud to oppose. Thank you.
When approximately 280 million people suffer from depression every single year according to WHO, having just a few words of consolation and someone to talk to is more than enough. There are two questions I will be asking in this speech. One, whether or not Replika will be addictive and whether or not people will over-rely on it. Second of all, whether or not Replika will advocate for extremism and radicalism. On to the first question. Panel, before getting on to any of the substantive, we have to understand the comparative in this debate. For those who have lost their young daughter, for those who have lost a loved one, for those who have lost a very close friend, the comparative in this debate without the help, without the rise of Replika is alcoholic abuse, is using and taking up illicit drugs, is overburdening themselves at work, and the comparative is self-harm. We have to understand the fact that on their side of the house, without the help of Replika, and side proposition literally gave you no alternative, they gave you no mechanism to solve the problem. The alternative is much worse for themselves and for society when they take up drugs and when they become alcoholic abuse. But second of all, we have to understand the fact that people resort to Replika because professional help and experts is not accessible in the first place. But with the rise of Replika, we have to understand the fact that we can also program Replika to offer guidelines, to offer educational materials on how to become an effective communicator, how to become an effective orator, or how they can offer guidelines and advice on mental health, or they can also act as a therapist. That is why you should support the rise of Replika. But thirdly, even if assuming the best case scenario, Replika will be over addictive and people will over rely on this, who are we to judge how one goes through trauma, and who are we to judge how one goes through traumatic experiences? On their side of the house, even if people rely on Replika, we say in these extreme cases there's nothing wrong when Replika is so perfect as side proposition one to frame this debate. So when Replika can act as a real friend, when Replika can communicate to you when others do not, when you have distrust in society, when you as an introvert and autistic kid, you do not have faith in your friends, in your peers, and you do not have the courage to open up with your family members. There's nothing wrong in it, and at the end of the day, you can still go to work, you can still go to school, and when you are back home, you can communicate with Replika. So even if in our worst case scenario, there's nothing wrong with it when you have an effective friend to communicate with. On to the second question on radicalism. We have to understand the fact that we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have social media. These social media apps can also reinforce and create echo chamber. But second of all, we have to understand the fact that terrorists do not need approval from a chatbot to bomb a city, to bomb a country. That's just so absurd. It's so irrational. But second of all, we can have regulations, we can have safeguarding mechanisms, but we can also have censorship from the government. Moreover, Replika will face backlash and will face distrust from users when many of the users see that Replika is so toxic and it advocates for radicalism and it advocates for extremism. Therefore, people will turn away from Replika. Sure. Okay, sure. Okay, so their point about echo chamber is symmetrical because on either side's house, we still have social media, we still have all those people, like all the terrorists, to validate your points. But what is important in this debate is for you to have a platform, for you to vent out your intense emotions, for you to vent out your anger. That is the tipping point in this debate. But you have to understand the comparative. The comparative is that you vent out these negative emotions on human, you vent out these negative emotions on your family members, on your loved one, on your friends, on your close relatives, and that is the comparative that side proposition did not engage with. So with these two clash on addiction, we have proved you addiction when you have a close friend is nothing wrong. But second of all, addiction is not likely to happen as you will likely to have a friend at the end of the day as side proposition claim. But finally, extremism is symmetrical on either side of the house. Therefore, vote for side opposition.
Thank you, guys. Judges, how are we doing? Why don't I start with Wing? Can you please go first?
All right, so I think definitely the last turn is elevated. It's much better. But it's really easy for me to judge this turn though. So for the proposition, I think you definitely have some good ideas in here, but the problem I have is, you know, like a lot of time I feel like you spend repeating your teammates' idea rather than, you know, like develop it or give me more impacts in there. Yeah, I think in this turn, there's something for me to consider, but it's not very strong. For the opposition, however, I think this is one of the best third speaker speech that I have heard in the debaters by far this year. So I think in here, first of all, you have very strong POI. You were able to choose a very good TAM to receive the POI from the opponent team. I like your comparative speeches, and you have a lot of great rebuttals. The thing I think, the tipping point for me is that one of the speakers today actually engaged with the best case scenario of the opponent team. And I think that's extremely important because at this point, we don't want to just, you know, like talk about like proposition side, keep talking about how bad Replika is, considering what if it's actually really good. And as Mr. Hugh said, right, it's customizable and has a lot of great features. Opposition side, you did it. And that's the reason why my 10 points go to the opposition side.
Congratulations, we're catching up there, guys. We're now to 40 and 30. Mr. Hugh, can I please hear from you?
I'm more excited after 2 lukewarm rounds. I think this is excited. Where yes, why you guys did not have time and space to elevate this to a more macro level, and you only have that much materials to work with from the first and the second debater. So I think this round for me is like which one actually close the reasoning the strongest. With the proposition team, I do believe like across the 2 debaters, you guys come in with a little bit more stance, a stronger stance. But at this point in time, I feel like I still don't know without Replika how you guys could solve the problems of those people you try to protect. Yes, you keep saying that they need to interact with the reality, but still, as the opposition team has consistently said that reality and other don't work for them. That's why they need Replika. So I couldn't see the mechanism of how to solve the problems of those people. With the opposition team, I actually very enjoy this round of the opposition team because you guys just keep coming and coming. It's just like layers of reasoning and like preempt. And I feel like this is a very rich materials to work with. I regret a little bit about you bringing the mechanism a little bit towards the end with censorship and all of those regulations. I wish that the first debater had put that in the first round, so that makes your case even stronger in the first round. But obviously, it's very easy for me as well. 10 points go to the opposition team.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hugh. And now we are at a tie, guys. We are at a tie, 40 to 40. So, want to be the tiebreaker, my friend? Mr. Stewart.
Okay, thank you to both teams for this, and for me as well, it's fairly clear which side won it for me personally. On the proposition side, Nghị, I think you did a fantastic job coming in and trying to summarize your main points, but there were still some elements of clarification that for me personally felt was lacking. So for example, the idea is that we're supposed to help people and then they can come and return back to society. Why is that our ultimate goal? Why can't people maintain this communication with the chatbot app? Why do they need their influence in society and reality? Also, you mentioned that if they talk in this app, it perpetuates loneliness. How do we know that it perpetuates loneliness? If they're talking to this app, maybe they feel fulfilled and it's not actually leading to loneliness. So I appreciate your efforts, but I think there are a few elements of clarification that we're missing a bit. For the opposition side, again, I'm going to reiterate what my fellow judges have said. There were some really, really strong points. I really like the fact that you mentioned that echo chambers are already existing and also that terrorism does not need confirmation from an app to continue to exist. I thought those were really good ideas. I wasn't quite keen on the idea of, if it's over addictive, how are we to judge someone's way that they get through trauma? That for me was a little bit weak, but other than that, I think that was a really strong round for the opposition side, and so my 10 points will have to go to you guys for that one.
Thank you so much. So my friend, how do you feel about the judges' critiques?
Convinced.
Convinced?
Yes.
And which particular critique are we going to try to bring into the reply speeches?
Everyone, I can't choose.
can't choose?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you did a good job. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So you guys came in as the underdogs, and now you guys are leading. How do you feel?
So I think I have gained a little bit confidence, but we still have the reply speech, so we should not be too confident.
Okay, that's a good way to go about it. Good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Please take a seat. And hang in there. We'll be right back with our reply speeches.
Replika blindly supports them, which most people don't get in real life, and so they feel so happy that they want to stay in it forever.
We have to understand the fact that terrorists do not need approval from a chatbot to bomb a city, to bomb a country.
A lot of time, I feel like you spend repeating your teammates' idea rather than, like develop it or give me more impact in there.
Welcome back to The Debaters Season 3. We're now coming down to our reply speeches. On the proposition side, we have 40 points, and on the opposition side, we have 50 points. It's still very close, and we don't have a clear winner yet, guys. With that being said, let me please welcome up our two speakers for the reply speeches. On the proposition side, Hoàng Ngọc Linh, please step up. And on the opposition side, may I please have Phan Thế Việt. So my friend, currently you guys are behind by 10 points, so you're gonna need to have all 3 votes from this round to win. What are you gonna do to try to get all 3 votes?
I think that I will just try my best and perform as if this is the last time that I can get on the stage.
Okay, I think that's pretty good. Best of luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
And Thế Việt, currently you guys have a 10-point lead, so you really only need 1 vote to win. What are you gonna do to get that vote?
I think I'll try to just fill in the very last few logic gaps in our team's argumentation and just hope for the best.
Okay, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we get on with our reply speeches, I'd like to review the rules very quickly. Each speaker will have a total of 2 minutes to complete their speech. There will be no POIs during this round, and the opposition side will be going first. Any questions?
No.
With that being said, let the debates begin.
There's a clear lack of comparative on team proposition's side of the house, so we'll go through each and every one of them. Firstly, on the main stakeholders of this debate, we believe, and they seem to concede, is that the people who are at the end of the road, right? One, we say, like our team says, humans intrinsically want human connections and want more of them, right? And slowly, if you use this so much, people become overwhelmingly bored. And we say, when these people have already escaped their situations, when they already alleviated their mental illnesses, there is no need for reliancy, especially when there's so much more to achieve, when there are things that these relationships can never replicate. But 2, we say that considering that Replika is on the rise, meaning it will become more accurate, and 2, there will be stronger government regulations put on them, right? 2, we say our societal analysis, which is unique to our side, is that it gives more humanity to these AI, right? Like it says, it adapts to emotions, and AI, we believe soon, will fulfill a more proactive role in tackling and taking a front stance in human issues in the first place, right? Such as human mental illnesses, such as the problems on our side, right? We say this only happens when we allow it more humanity, we allow it to adapt. But 2, we say that social movements such as LGBTQIA or feminism, they now have a unique avenue to just have someone to talk to and encourages them, and it gives them moral support, the necessary assistance they need, right? This directly clashes with their analysis on extremism, right? But thirdly, right, we need to analyze the alternative here. 1, we said that when help is already so accessible, the first way is that no one actually helps these people communicate in the first place when it only happens on our side. But 2, right, we would much rather be friends with a robot. We'd much rather be friends with an AI than be friends with alcohol, be friends with Advil. Secondly, right, notice that team proposition provides no remedy to the problem of mental illnesses. And when these people are already so hopeless, we say they'll become all the more likely to become radical, at least swayed by extremists, when there are so many radicalists out there today that are wanting to pull us into their terrorist organizations, right? We say when it's on our side, 1, we alleviate these issues, and so they are much less vulnerable, but 2, there's much more government regulation. Vote for Replika, the AI companion who cares more than most.
So as you have mentioned that we are lacking of the comparative, and now we want to giving that to the team, because first, let's just compare the worst case scenario. So in the opposition's world, these people, they cannot deal with their emotional distress on their own, and these people in real life, they communicate less and less, and then just leading to a detached society where everyone has their own replica. And as you have mentioned, if that replica is perfect, then how could they need the interactions with other people, even though that interaction is what makes us a society, what makes our world moving forward with all the classing ideas, all the classing innovative changes that we need when we need that through interactions, not because the communications that we are doing with the replica and the rise of it. And then these lonely people, the stakeholder that you mentioned that is the most vulnerable, they are still living a narrow cycle because they are still dependent on it. And if one day, if that replica broke down, and then what could they do at that moment? And how could they even try themselves and try to seek the directions for themselves? Because at that moment, they are too immersed into this app already. And then, in the Protestant world, people, maybe they don't have a source of constant emotional support, but at least they are pushed out there and they know that the world is not perfect, but they are living and they're trying to make the best of that. They are not depending on anyone. And then maybe you stated that we don't have any specific solution here, but at least we prove that with the status quo and with the situation that we are facing right now, your world, this replica is only worsened by the rise of it. And in the best case, maybe you have mentioned it can be perfect friends, but it still cannot replace what the true human friendship and companionship, romantic, and everything that feelings. And even you have also mentioned that you only think of this as temporary solutions. But why should we promote the rise of temporary solutions when we could have sold them the long-term benefits if they are out of that temporary and truly reach the happiness and the communications between people? And for all that reasons, we have no regrets but to propose these motions.
Thank you so much, guys. The reply speech round is completely anonymous and we'll have no remarks from the judges. Thank you so much, guys. Please take a seat. Hang in there. We'll be right back with the final results. Welcome back to the Debaters Season 3. Before I reveal our final results, I'd like to present an award to our most valuable speaker today. All along, we've had a remote audience voting on their favorite speaker for the day. The winner will be rewarded a 1 million Vietnam Dong prize. Let's take a look at the board to see who won. Congratulations, Lu Jian, please step up. Congratulations, my friend. You're the most valuable speaker for today. How does it feel?
It's truly an honor. I think so, yeah.
Okay, and is there any message you'd like to send to our audience?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, okay. So here's your reward, sir, and you'll be awarded 1 million Vietnamese dong. What are you gonna do with your prize?
I will take my team to dinner.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much. And with that being said, I'd like to reveal our final results. May I please have the rest of the contestants on stage? As it stands, our proposition team has 40 points and our opposition team has 50 points, meaning that we still don't have a clear winner. With that being said, I'm glad to present our results. You ready? Ready?
Sir.
Okay. Our first winner is Reply, opposition team. So let's make you guys the winners today. Putting you guys at 55 points, you guys are the winners, but let's see who else got the rest of the votes. So, 5 more points for opposition. And opposition as well. This means that our opposition team won with 65 points, our proposition team 40 points, but you guys still did a great job. Opposition side, you guys will be moving on to our finals. How do you guys feel? Want to share your thoughts?
We feel extremely excited and proud. It was definitely a tough match. We were the underdogs. Well, we were losing at first, and definitely thanks to our third speaker that we managed to pull it back.
Perfect, that's always good. And you guys have any message for your friends over here?
I think this is a great opportunity for us to study and learn from our predecessors. And this match was a rich experience for us to learn from. So.
I'm glad that you said a rich experience because I think that really there's no winners or losers today. I mean, it's kind of sad you guys don't get to go on, but there's so many more opportunities, right? And I hope that I can see you guys many more times, okay? Perfect, thank you guys so much. And with that being said, I'd like to send a special thanks to British University of Vietnam for supporting us today, and I'll see you guys in the finals. Thank you, have a good one.